I there, warriors, and welcome to this new live stream. And it's done. Uruguay have a new manager. It's been almost a month since the sacking of Oscar Tabares, but now new man is in, and his name is Diego Alonso. Manager for 10 years, won big trophies in America with Pachuca and Monterrey, and now he's taken on the biggest job in his career, managing Uruguay 4 games away from potentially getting to the World Cup. And yeah, it's an appointment which obviously has some critics. Some people don't believe he deserves it. Some people think his career as a manager don't really warrant a chance like this because we have to get it right. Managing Uruguay, one of the most successful national teams in football history, is a big job and a job which doesn't come easy. And Diego Alonso, although he has done some good jobs in Mexico, especially, he's also had some failures. For example, in Uruguay with Peñarol, although it was a really short time. In Paraguay, some people feel he didn't do that well. And Inter Miami, I don't believe it's a failure, but he was sacked after one season. We will get into this later, but these are the things that are playing against him. In my opinion, I'm okay. I'm fine with this appointment. We have to be realistic. We have to look at what was the alternative. The three names considered by the Uruguayan Football Association at the moment or the last few days were Diego Aguirre, manager of Internacional, Alexander Medina, manager of Talleres, and Diego Alonso was a free agent and who lives in Spain, which was also something that was helpful because he could immediately visit players of the national team. On top of that, he had playing for him was the fact that Oscar Ortega, El Profe Ortega, the physical trainer of Diego Simeone, would be on his staff, and this was something that tipped probably the balance a little bit in his favor. So this was playing for him, and also he is a promising young manager. Let's get that right because. First of all, he comes across when you watch interviews with him or how he represents himself, comes across as really passionate manager with also clear ideas of how he wants to see his teams play. And yeah, it's an interesting appointment for various reasons. We will go into the way he normally plays let his teams play later on. But first, I would like to give my opinion on why I think the appointment is right and why I think Aguirre and Medina probably at the end didn't make it. So first of all, why I think the appointment is right, looking at the options, is that he has a history of winning trophies. He's the only manager in history to win the CONCACAF Champions League, so the Champions League for the North America and Central America, 2 times and with different teams. The only manager in history to do this. So that's no mean feat, you know. He brought a league title for Pachuca in 2016, the first one in almost 10 years. Also a good achievement. Let's get that right. And these are things that play for him, and these are also his main achievements in his career. When you look at the recent history, Inter Miami, I wouldn't look too much into it. You know, he took over Inter Miami in their first year of their existence. They were just beginning. David Beckham set up this club. It was the owner, and he took on Diego Alonso, and he had 1 year where the club was basically starting off, first year in existence, and he got them to the playoffs. They weren't great; they lost more games than they won, but he got them in the playoffs in their first year of their existence. So you can say it's not the greatest job, but it's also not a bad job by any stretch of the imagination. So after 1 year, he was sacked because Phil Neville, a friend of David Beckham, class of '92, I think it was, both they were in the class of '92 of the United Youth Academy, and he took on his friend. He took on his friend as a manager, and Diego Alonso paid the price. He was sacked, but you have to be realistic. When you start a club, when you're the club, when you give this man a job, you take him on for a project, starting this club up from scratch. You can't achieve or expect that he achieve this massive thing after 1 year. You have to give him some time to build and to work with the team, work with the club, which was starting from bottom. So I would not go anywhere near to that debate as to this was a failure. No, it was not. So what you have with Alonso is someone who has won stuff, big trophies in North and Central America, and who, for the way he lets his teams play, excites me. He can, my let's be honest, my initial reaction to hear the name Diego Alonso as a manager of Uruguay, I knew about him before. Obviously he's won some big trophies in North Central America, but my initial reaction was bit pragmatic. From the little I've seen about him and the little I knew about him, because let's be honest, I knew the name and I knew his achievements, but I'm not gonna say to you here with a straight face that I've watched tens or hundreds of games of his teams. No, I've not. So my reaction was a little bit reserved. My preferences was with Guillermo Almada, Marcelo Gallardo, if this was even possible. For my opinion, it was never really possible. But it was not my initial preference went to him. This wasn't the case. But obviously, when the weeks go on and the race gets more tighter, the options or the the people considered were getting more narrow. It went down to this group of three managers, which was Alonso, Medina, Aguirre, and watching at all three of them, what they've done in the recent years, their way of playing, for me it was had to be Medina and Alonso. And Medina probably had a little bit of the favor or the positivity around him because at the moment he's doing a great job for Talleres. He's doing some fantastic work there. Talleres, not an historic club in Argentina or not one of the big five, finishing second, going to the Argentina Cup final. He's doing some amazing job. So probably many people thought, well, I would prefer Medina because at the moment he's performing. At football, it's all about today. You can be a winner yesterday, but if today you lose, you are a loser. That's the way it is. It's short term football. So this is why probably a lot of people preferred Medina, maybe Aguirre, although I don't really get that for the current moment he's living right now because Aguirre, to be honest, in the last weeks, last months, his side, his international side, has just collapsed, and that's not a good thing. But Alonso, he's been out of a job for months now. But if you look at the way he has let his team play, and this is what I discovered mostly in the last few weeks when I researched him, is that it's an interesting idea of football. He likes his team to play have possession, high pressing. Okay, all this stuff we know this. We've heard this a thousand times. Every manager wants this. Who doesn't want this? This is mother football, and obviously we want a manager that fits in his profile, and we want a manager that has this traits of his game because it suits our players. We want to be possession orientated and we want to be high pressing. We want to be on the pitch or on the side of, or how do you say it, on the side of the opponent's pitch. Kind of losing my words, but we want to be in a bit high block, not in a low block, which we are normally are. High block pressing and being active, proactive, not reactive, which we are a lot of time. We are passive a lot of time. So, so Alonso can do this. But then when you look at the way he lets his teams play, which is very interesting from the things I've seen. So he likes to have his team have two center backs that are comfortable on the ball, that are can step on the ball with a lot of meters behind him and look for solutions. And I think with Araujo, we have someone who is getting better in this. Jimenez, he's not the best on the ball, but he can do this. Godin, I think he's a good player on the ball, but for me, Godin, it's over. But we have players that can do this. Then, what also is interesting, he likes to play with two central midfielders, but in the build-up phase, when we are building up from the back, one of these midfielders, as we see a lot of the time, he wants one of these midfielders to drop into the two defenders. So basically, it comes to line of three, but what he wants as well is the other midfielder to really push up. So basically, to attract attention from other players and create space for these two defenders and the central midfielder to find solutions, to have space to build up. Then also his two fullbacks, he wants them really high on the pitch. So a lot of the time, certainly with Uruguay, you see that when we build up, it's nothing changes. It's a line of four. It's Godin, Jimenez, Caceres. A lot of the time Caceres, which is a bad thing in my opinion, and then Fina, Piqueres, they're on one line, even if we build up. Most of the time, they're on one line. But with him, which is for me a more modern idea, to look for passing angles and to try to progress the ball faster and higher up the pitch, is his fullbacks are very high, very high. And basically, when you start playing, for example, Araujo plays the ball to Valverde, who would be the more advanced midfielder, plays to Valverde. Valverde can immediately get this triangle out to the left to, for example, Espino or Fina, to get who is into space then, and we can play further. It's more progressive way of building up. Obviously, building up is progressive, but it's not like it's It's faster and more effective and more dynamic. And these are traits which we don't have at the moment, right? We don't have our play is not fast, not dynamic. It has nothing of this. Um, then another thing is, so he likes his fullbacks to be offensive, also overlapping runs, and he likes to have his two wingers basically be inside forwards. And obviously, this is not always the case because, yeah, when you are playing on the right, for example, we have an attack and Damian Suarez is the ball. He tries to have a combination with the right-sided right winger, which maybe would be Facundo Torres. You're playing in these congested spaces, then a lot of the time you see the left winger being out wide to have space over there so you can switch a play and you have space to play. But in principle, he likes his wingers to be an inside forward, so there's space for the fullbacks to bump forward and overlapping runs. This is what I've seen and I've learned basically from watching clips and reading things about how he tries just likes his team to play. But you know what? I'm talking for 5 minutes now, but we have an idea of how he wants to play. We have an idea of how Diego Alonso wants to make his team play. Did we have an idea how Tavares wants his team to play? Like really an idea which is something you can identify with, which something that is representable to as a football team and not just basically waiting for moments to happen, waiting for mistakes to happen. No, we didn't have this. And with Diego Alonso, it's a manager, a young manager, a modern manager who has his ideas, who can are more suited to this team. Okay, so that's why I'm excited. I see a clear idea of him, and maybe he comes in and he has a completely different idea. Who knows? But for now, this is the way he has been setting his teams up. His preferred formation is 4-2-3-1. Obviously, you have variations of this, and he also has been known to be adaptive in game, playing with some different formations, some switches, so being pretty dynamic in a way he sets his teams up. But in principle, the things I've just said are really characteristic of how he wants his teams to build up. And in defense, obviously, it's more tight. The wingers drop deeper. Mostly the attacking midfielder and the striker are the highest up the pitch. So that's a different story. But this is what I've known or I've seen now, and yeah, it excites me because it's something which I can get behind and a way of playing which I think suits to the players. Because I've been reading quotes of Diego Alonso. He did an interview with the Coach's Voice, which is a really good platform, which gives coaches, basically giving some tactical or some insight or some experience of their career. It's really interesting, For example, sometimes a manager comes on there and they analyze a big game of maybe 5 or 10 years ago, which they managed. For example, Brendan Rodgers, you remember, the former Liverpool manager, who's now Leicester City manager, came on and analyzed the game from Liverpool against Arsenal 5-1 in 2013 or 14. It's nice to see this in my opinion. So he said this, which I'm gonna have to look it up, but for me it was really interesting because this is what I believe is good in a manager, because I believe it's good that a manager has an idea, a style of play, an identity, which he wants to bring across, and he wants his players to represent this. That's all great. You have to do this. Obviously, you have to have this as a manager. But I hate when a manager has his idea and he's not flexible at all. He has his idea, and basically the players have to fit into this idea. I don't like it. I think as a manager, you have to always react on your players. You have to always adapt your idea or your style of play. Obviously, you have your principles of football, how you want to see it played. These are fixed, you cannot change this. But you have to fit your players, you have to fit your system on the players. You have to play to the strengths of the players. This is the most important thing. You want to have the full potential out of every player. And the way we have been set up in recent years, this is not the case. So that was really something which I didn't like. Okay, he said this. Sometimes I could talk about it with some players to get to know how they would resolve a specific problem. That's because there's something that is paramount to me. The vision for the game is not mine, but the whole team's. The art of the manager must be that the vision for the game belongs to everybody, but not by imposing it. That in turn leads to sharing it with the group so that they can come up with the right tools to solve a problem. That is my dynamic in the dressing room. So hope I read it a bit loud or understandable. But basically, he's saying that he also asks from his players some responsibility to solve problems in the pitch and to to be involved in that they are the identity, they represent the identity, and they are the ones that it's all about. They make the ID, they form the ID, and he obviously is the leader in this because he's the manager, and his principles will be hopefully carried over to the players. But it's like it's not a one-way stream; it's a two-way stream, Um, so that's the way it goes. You have manager have IDs, but players, and maybe it's less now, but certainly I know from reading it used to be that way before in the past that the players are influential in the way that they want to play. Um, they should be obviously because I mean these are players. Some of them like Suarez, Godin, Cavani, they've been in dressing rooms for 15 years, so they obviously know some about team dynamics and what is the best for the group and what's probably the best way to play. So it's a two-way stream, and I think it's really positive when a manager has this approach that it's really the dynamic between the coach and the players and the coaching staff. Obviously, together they come to the idea of how they want to play. Okay, let's go into the comments. By the way, thank you for all for being here. 10 people here. Thanks a lot, everybody. Let me know your opinions. I see a lot of comments already, but let me know your opinions about this. Are you hopeful? Do you have this belief again? Or are you a bit pessimistic? Do you not agree with the appointment? Let me know. And also, if you want, please like the video. It helps me a lot. And subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much. Okay, Danny F says, hopefully now guys like Espino, Cabrera, Nico Lopez, Manuel Ugarte, and Diego Rossi get a chance with the national team. And guys like Godin, Vecino, Brian Rodriguez, and Cáceres don't get called up. Well, that will be interesting to see, because I'm really positive right now. But if the next call up comes out and Cáceres, Vecino, Godin, all these players are in and are playing again, and players like Espino, like Cabrera, although I don't believe that he's the priority right now, but you know what I mean? These players who deserve it don't come in and don't even get a minute, like Damian Suarez. Then I will call it out. Not go- I mean, obviously you have to give a manager a chance, but when this stuff happen, I will call it out because I mean we want to see this change because this change is needed, and that's also the thing. What It's the thing as well that the manager comes in now and he will have probably one training session with all players before the first game against Paraguay. So that's not a lot. That's nothing or almost nothing to really get the team playing in his ideology. Just nothing can happen. But what he can do, which is a big part of the problem, he can, which he should, play the players that deserve to play and call up the players that deserve to be called up. Because if he does that, it will go a long way. It will go a long way, believe me. And I think you all believe this as well, because come on, what we have seen at times in the last months, last years, just a joke. So this new manager coming in, he has to get this right. That's the first thing, the most important thing. He has to get this right. Play the players that deserve to play. It's not the hardest thing in the world. It's not the hardest thing in the world, in my opinion, at least. Obviously, you can debate who is the better central attacking midfielder, De La Cruz or De Rascaeta. Who is better? Is it, for example, can you play Suarez or Cavani? These are problems that if he picks one or the other, maybe I have a preference to another one, but it's tight. You have both of the argument. But with players like Cáceres and Vecino, it's so clear that there are alternatives who are much better, who can offer much more to the team. So clear. So he has to get these decisions right. That's the first thing that he has to get right. The most important thing. Get the players right, call up the right players, play the right players. And we can go from there. Because and we all know this, have a squad good enough to beat these upcoming 4 games. We do have it. And we might have been playing like absolute crap in the last few weeks, months, maybe even years, but it's not always, and that's what I say to myself in life when things are not really going well. It's never as bad as it seems. So how bad Uruguay were playing, this is not. It was really bad. Let's get that right. But we are not far away from being a good team again because we have the players. We have the players. It's not like we don't have it. It's not like there's no hope. There's there's light at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully Diego Alonso can guide us to this light. Let's hope it. Okay, Eric Duran says, "I'm excited for this new era. He hasn't had this great of a talent pool to work with up until now." Yeah, that's right. I mean, I was thinking about this when I was thinking about what I was gonna say in the stream. That it will be interesting to see that how he will manage this group because um, in all of his jobs he's had some decent players. I remember hearing Lozano, who went on to Napoli and is a good player. I wouldn't say world class, but he's a good player. But this is the level of players, the maximum level of players he's managed, you know. And now he's coming into this dressing room with Suarez, Cavani, Godin, Arajo, Bentancur, Valverde, Darwin Nunez, all these players who are playing for the biggest clubs in the world. Players like Suarez, Cavani, who've been 15 years in their career, winning a lot of stuff, scoring countless of goals. So I believe he can. It will not be a problem, but obviously it's different, you know. It's obviously different, but luckily for him, and luckily I'm happy for this. Uruguay is not a team or a nation which has many footballing egos. You know, obviously everybody has his ego for trying to do well, and when he doesn't play, he doesn't feel well. But I mean, in terms of feeling you are better than the team or than someone else, Uruguay is not really like this. The Uruguayan player, at least at this moment in time, this is one of the things which I absolutely love about this team as well. But so I think it won't be that big of a problem. But Eric, you are right. It's interesting, you know. Um, Okay. Joaquin Schneeberger says Godin will surely get called up. He's friends with Alonso. Yeah, that could be. Yeah, that's true. He was at Nacional together, right? And I think he should be called up. I'm not saying he shouldn't be called up, but for me, and I don't think it will happen. I will get into this later, but for me, he shouldn't play anymore. But I still think he should be part of the squad because, a bit like Lugano in the last years, when he was injured a lot, he still was there most of the time, of all the time, and I believe he should because Lugano was like this father figure. Juan Pedro says if he has personality, things will go right for sure. Yeah, and I get what you're saying. You know, if he has personality, he will make these decisions. You know, I think this is what you mean. So if he has the personality, then he will make these big decisions because he knows it's for the best for the team and for the best for him. Because hey, he's coming in to do a job, 4 games to qualify for the World Cup. It's not like he's gonna come in to make friends, you know. Obviously, he cannot upset. He cannot. He probably could not leave Godin and Suarez out for all the games, but there are decisions to be made, which he has to make, and to make them, he has to show personality. But I believe he will. You know, like I said, it's his job on the line as well, and his reputation. His reputation could be really lifted up a huge amount if he qualifies for the World Cup and progresses this team. Because the thing is, although he has done some really good things in his career as manager, the magnitude of the Uruguay national team is far above anything he's managed before. That's the truth. So for him, it's a huge step up, a huge opportunity to make his name in management. Um, so yeah, and he will have to make big calls. But I think, like I said, I think he will because it's his reputation on the line as well. Um, Eric Duran says, "Yeah, I'd like to hear who probably lost their chance of being called up to this national team." Yeah, I think rumors will come out soon of this, you know, or rumors. I think we will get ideas of who are being considered, who are not. Let's see. Yeah, Juan Pedro says, "I really wanted Kaki to get back. Yeah, I understand. Absolutely understand. This is the way it is. I think both would be a good option, and I think Medina, yeah, he probably will go to. There was links to San Lorenzo, so that will be a good step up. Let's see. I mean, he's a good manager, and maybe he will be given a chance in the future. He's a young guy, so let's see. But I understand that it was a name and a good profile, done a really good job in the last 2 or 3 years. So yeah. Um, Danny F says having guys like Darwin and Rossi with Suarez in the middle would suit Alonso's inside forward ID. Yeah, that's true, and this is why I did a lineup on Twitter. I don't know if you've seen it. Uh, if you want to have a look, but if you don't do it. But Darwin, I had him as a winger. You know, it was a winger, but basically more of, like I say, an inside forward, which I don't really like to use all these terms inside forward. this fancy terms, but it's the best way to describe it in my opinion, because he's not a winger, but he's not a striker as well. But it's a really similar role that he plays in Benfica. So Benfica, he plays in the number 9 position a lot, but also he plays a lot on the left, and the right is Rafa, and Rafa is more the winger, but Darwin is more a second striker to Yaremchuk, the Ukrainian number 9. And Darwin can play as a number 9 for sure, but he's also really good at finding space from the left. He's quick, he's mobile, he's strong. So I would never really put him as a pure winger, but as coming from the left, an inside forward, second striker, he would do a really good job in the system that I believe Alonso would play. Joaquin Favaro says, "Who do you think the goalkeeper will be?" It's a really good question because we don't know it at this moment. That's the truth. Muslera, he probably will not make it to the January qualifiers. Rochette, I don't. To be honest, I don't really know when he comes back or if he's already back. If he's back, if he comes back, Rochette probably is the best option. Other than that, you have to look at Sebastian Sosa for Independiente, maybe even Martin Campagna, although he's went to Saudi Arabia to play football, which probably for most it's the way of saying goodbye to your career. Maybe say hello to a new villa or new house, but when it comes to a competitive career, it's probably saying goodbye. But we'll have to see. But I'm not concerned about it because although Muslera has not been doing well, I think Uruguay have a lot of good goalkeepers playing in South America who have never been given a chance because Muslera was already always this number one that was never even being doubted, although he's made a lot of mistakes in the last few years. So we will see. Yeah. Okay. Underdog says, so if Diego Alonso actually has been watching Uruguay and all the Uruguayans playing around the world play the last few months, who do you think are newcomers that deserve to play and who should be out? Well, okay, I think I made a list, so I probably know that on top of my head, but it's probably the best to get this list of players I believe shouldn't. Well, that's not nice to say, but shouldn't play for Uruguay anymore, and players who I believe should be given a chance because it's all nice and well to think of the future, players that have promise and that could maybe one day be a great player for Uruguay. But yeah, you don't win. You have to win today. And Viña Piqueres, although I believe these are two really interesting left backs with a good future, they are in the moment of they are in development and a lot. Viña has been struggling in Italy in his adaptation time. Piqueres is a good fullback, but he's also has some steps to go. And then there's the best alternative, Alfonso Espino, who's probably been the best left back in Spain this year. Maybe one of them, but certainly one of them. But in my opinion, he is certainly one of the best fullbacks in Spain. Oliveira, who's been a consistent performer in Getafe in Spain. Olasa, okay, he's lost his place in Valladolid. He's been really a bit off the radar, but he's a talented left back as well. But for especially Espino, for me, should come in. He should come in. He's the best left back Uruguay has at this moment. Same with Damian Suarez, the best right back. He was called up 2 times by Tavares, or 3 times even, never given a minute. And Nandes, although he's done a good job in the last year. In the games against Argentina, against Brazil, you saw he was not the right back. And that's not his mistake, because he's not the right back. He can play quite well on the right wing back, but in essence, he's a midfielder. And he can play on the right, but he's a midfielder. And when you play him in right back against Rafinha or Neymar, or against the players of Argentina, he's getting called out. For example, against Luis Diaz against Colombia, although he did quite well. But you see he's not the right back. And Damian Suarez, he is a right back, and he has been the best right back Uruguay have in the last 5 years. The fact he's not been called up is a joke. But let's not think of this past anymore, because at this moment in time, he still is the best right back, and he should be called up and he should be played. That's just my opinion. Well, for the players that should not be called up in the defense, in my opinion, Cáceres has no place in the national team anymore. I mean, come on. It's not a circus, right? So, great servant for Uruguay in the past 15 years, especially in the last, not in the last 5 years, but 10 years before that. But at this moment in time, no, it's over. Godin, I think he shouldn't play as a starter anymore, but for sure he should be in the squad because he is the leader of the team, the captain. I would go with either Araujo or Coates to partner Jimenez. Possibly at this moment in time, when you look at the current form and the injury of Jimenez, Araujo and Coates are the best option. But well, Jimenez in potential is the best center back Uruguay have. So yeah, look at the midfield. Vecino, you know what? I know it will not happen, but in my opinion, he shouldn't be called up anymore. He is the sixth or seventh choice midfielder in Inter Milan. He's hardly played a minute. That's He's hardly played a minute this season. I think he started one or two games and almost never comes on for more than 20 minutes. So yeah, I mean, Uruguay are moving on. The midfield that is coming through is a talented midfield, young talents, players that are coming to their best age, and we should take advantage of this. We should not keep Vecino like Tavares did because he did very well when he came in 2016, 17. I mean, we have to look at the last year where Vecino has been atrocious. Probably the worst Uruguayan, probably one of the worst Uruguay internationals in the last year. So, in my opinion, he should not be there anymore. In midfield, well, Torreira for me should play. The way he's been playing for Fiorentina is fantastic, and he's the best central defensive midfielder we have. Arambari is a good option, but for me, Torreira is still a little bit ahead. Looking further, who shouldn't be called up anymore? I think Vecino and Caceres are the biggest problems. I think they don't have a place anymore for Uruguay. But if you look at players getting called up, you know what? I like Nico Lopez, Diego Rossi. I like these players, especially for what they have done in the certainly last 2 years for their clubs. And I would like to see them get a chance. But for me, the time to give them a chance was probably in the start of the qualifiers or the mid of the qualifiers. But at this moment in time, for me, it's not a priority because although they have done really well, Nico Lopez and Diego Rossi are no upgrade on Darwin Nunez, Cavani, Suarez. They're no upgrade. And these are the three main strikers we have. I know Rossi is more a winger, but he plays a lot as a striker as well. Nico Lopez, he's not a real striker, but he plays in a two-striker system for Tigres. They're not pure wingers as well. For me, what we have to look for, what is a priority, the right wing. Who is the ideal right winger right now? That's for me the biggest question. We have Brian Rodriguez. He's a talented boy, but is he the one that we believe will be the starter in Qatar if we make it, obviously, or who is the starter for the upcoming 4 games? I don't know. Balistri, way too early. He's adapting a lot. He's not playing really well for Alaves. Not playing a lot as well. Facundo Torres, talented, but for me, he's more of an attacking midfielder than a pure winger. And what I like at this moment is a pure winger from the right, with speed, with good one-on-one. That's what I like. Ocampo is an interesting name, but he's not been in his best form in the last few months. Terrance is a good option. Canobio is a good option for Peñarol, although he can also play in midfield, obviously. Nandes could play on the right. He's not the right winger, but he could do a job. I'm just naming names who are options. But for me, that is the biggest concern right now, or the biggest concern, the biggest doubt, the right wing position. So let me know, who do you believe is the ideal right winger? Because I believe we will play with two wide forwards, inside forwards, wingers, whatever you want to call it, one striker, and that's I think how we will play. And for me, the most important thing now is to determine who should it be. Because for me, at the striker position, it's Suarez or Cavani, one of these two. I don't want to play them together anymore, and I think we can all be in agreement. This time is over. It was great, brilliant moments, and probably we will see a little bit of it still. But yeah, I mean, it's not the way to go anymore, in my opinion. So yeah. Okay. Ken Johnson says the change is exciting. What kind of football do his teams play? I have no idea. Also, saw your lineup. Wanted to ask what you thought about Ugarte as a 5 and Favela playing as a number 10. So what kind of football his team play? Well, at the start of the video, and I've given quite, in my opinion, maybe it's not, maybe you thought it was rubbish, but quite a detailed view of how I think his teams play. Possession orientated, high pressing, quite fullbacks high up, midfielder, one of the defensive midfielders, so holding midfielders dropping into center backs, and the other midfielder like Valverde, higher up, trying to distract the press of the other team and trying to find passing angles to progress from the back. Inside wingers to call it like this. So Darwin maybe or Ocampo on the wings playing a little bit more congested to give space to the overlapping fullbacks and the number 9. This is the principles. It can differ sometimes, it can vary sometimes, but this is what he has been known for in his time for Pachuca and Monterrey for sure. You asking about Ugarte? Um, I think Ugarte is a really interesting option because he is broken through for Sporting, and I'm really glad to see this. I've watched a lot of Sporting this season because I really like the team, the manager, the way they play, and I like Coates. To be honest, is one of my favorite players um, for the way he has handled his career. Going to Liverpool, not being used, a failure. They were speaking of him going to Sporting, being a big player for them, having a really tough time in like 2018, 2019, and then coming back as he has done, the captain for the last 2 or 3 years, and really being the leader of a team which at the moment is probably the best team in Portugal for the way they are playing and the fact that they have won the Portuguese league last season. For me, it's fantastic. And yeah, I just love it, and this is why I watch him a lot, watch Sporting a lot, also because I watch Portuguese football quite a lot. And then Ugarte, he's broken through. Palinha, one of their stars, has been injured, and Ugarte, who plays similar. Ugarte is quite versatile, so he can play as a 5, as an 8. But Ugarte, like you say, playing as a 5 at Sporting for the last 4 games, and has impressed a lot. And he's been also being loved by the Sporting fans. They really feel that at 20 years of age, they have a real gem on their hands. And even if Palinha leaves, they are comfortable because they have seen this player. And obviously, it's a small sample size. It's only a few games, but he shows promise of being a really top class central midfielder. He could become this. So I believe he could be a big part for Uruguay in the future. As of right now, I would prefer Torreira in this position. And Ugarte, who I believe should be in the squad, and I think he will be. Let's see. But for me, it's Torreira as a number 5 or a 6, however you want to call it. And Valverde, you are saying playing as a 10. I think Valverde is perfect to be alongside Torreira as the number 8. Valverde has the lungs like you wouldn't believe. So he's perfect for this position. And the fact that the reason why I don't go for Bentancur there is that in the system that Alonso likes to play, you have a midfielder like Torreira who drops into the defenders, and you have another one like Valverde who's further up the pitch, trying to receive the ball, progressing the ball, which Valverde is a really good ball progressor. The fact I don't want Bentancur is, although Bentancur has been one of the best players for Uruguay in the last few games, which wasn't that hard, but I'm joking but you know what I mean. Uruguay was that bad, but he was one of the bright spots for sure. And Bentancur can be a really quality player because he is a quality player. He can play some real good football. His passing can be really tidy, and he can do something extraordinary. But the problem with Bentancur, and I've seen it, and the Juventus fans have seen it a lot. Whenever he is playing as a regista, as the deepest lying playmaker, he has to try to make things happen. His nonchalance, his lack of concentration, lack of focus is costing him because he makes too many sloppy passes, sloppy mistakes, being caught in possession for a top class midfielder. And if you play in the position that he could be playing, between the central defenders, receiving the ball, trying to progress the ball, for me, he's not secure enough. He's not reliable enough in this job. So this is why I go for Torreira. If you play Torreira as a holding midfielder and you go for 2 midfielders ahead of him, Bentancur, Valverde, brilliant, perfect. I believe this is the good option. But in the way I believe Alonso will play, and him playing as this deepest lying midfielder, I don't believe he is the right fit. But I understand when people disagree because, yeah, Bentancur is a quality player. But you also have to remember he's 24. And when I watch Bentancur play, I don't see a lot of difference between him when he was 21 and 24. So a lot of the mistakes he was making when he was 21, he's still making at 24. So that is not good, It's not. It's. I don't. I still see flaws in the game of Valverde, I still see things of Valverde that he can improve. But for Valverde, you see constant improvement. So he was there in 2018, and he is now over there in 2021. He's improving, adding more to his game. Bentancur, he has added some things to his game, but for me, his progression has been underwhelming. Um, and yeah, I don't believe I don't believe in a position that he or Torreira will play. I don't think he's suitable. But let's see. Maybe Alonso has a different idea. We will see. I'm just someone sitting here talking about football, being paid nothing. He's being paid a lot of money, probably $1.8 million. So he should make the decision. And whenever he makes the decision, we will see. Hopefully, he's right. Okay, Danny F says Viña, Araujo, Jimenez, and Damian should be the backline. I think Espino in place of Viña. Other than that, I probably would agree. Uh, CAP, I play a role fan, I imagine. Do you think Alvarez Martinez still has a place on the squad? Let me have a look. I think yes, because you know what? You have to look at it like this. His competition for a substitute place, because he is a substitute at this moment in time. When everybody is fit, he's a substitute, and that's no, how do you say it? It's no disappointment, because he's a young guy and he has some brilliant players ahead of him. But his place as a substitute is probably between him, Maxi Gomez, Jonathan Rodriguez, these players. Jonathan Rodriguez, um, he's not been doing really well last season in Mexico, although he did brilliantly a year before. But yeah, last season he wasn't great. Agustin Alvarez Martinez is probably one of the most promising players in South America. And Maxi Gomez, we all know of Maxi Gomez. When he came to Europe, he was brilliant, talented young striker with so many potential. But his last 2 years have been underwhelming. We can all see this. So at the moment, I think Agustin Alvarez Martinez will be in the squad, and he probably should be, because he's the future. Danny F says Lopez and Rossi are upgrades on Brian Rodriguez. Well, I think they are different players, but if you look at the quality at this moment and the form, although Rossi also has not been the best in his first months in Fenerbahce, you're probably right. So we will see. We will see. Um, Agustin Solari says, "Don't play with wings." Well, I believe we should play with wingers. Yeah, or well, we will see. Also a formation I've always liked, because it's really suitable to the group we have. It's the 4-3-1-2. So basically playing with two fullbacks who are offensive, overlapping, really basically like maybe a Trent Alexander-Arnold and Cancelo, who play really high up, trying to get involved in the build-up, because fullbacks in modern football probably one of the most important positions when it comes to building up from the back. So I would like this, then three midfielders, Torreira as the deepest lying midfielder, Bentancur and Valverde either side, number 10 of Tarasqueta or De La Cruz, and then Darwin with Suarez or Cavani. This is a formation I would like a lot as well. And this is no wingers, but you have fullbacks bumming up, providing the width. That's also interesting. So Augusto Solari, if you mean something like this, I can agree with you. But yeah, I think the history of Diego Alonso, the manager, um, it's the history says that he plays with wingers, and not pure wingers, but more inside forwards a little bit. But we will see. Danny F says Conobio, Lopez, and Diego Rossi should be in the squad instead of Terrans, Jonathan Rodriguez, and Brian Rodriguez. Yeah, these are three names that I've been hearing a lot, that should get a chance. And the other three you named, Brian and Jonathan, although I don't think Jonathan has had a lot of chances. Um, they have not taken their chances with both their hands. David Terrans, he's not been given any chance, basically, so I wouldn't judge him. And he has had a great season for Atletico Paranaense. But it would be interesting to see, and I get this, talking about players which you hope can get a chance under a new manager. And that's the most exciting thing as well, You have this new manager who can come in and give a completely different perspective to the squad, to the way we play, and we will see. Burn Roddy says the perfect diamond is Torreira, Valverde, Bentancur, and Rasqueta. When playing at their same mode, is dazzling to watch. Yeah, I mean, when managed correctly, when given the right tools, basically manager that allows this kind of lineup to play freely and play the football. with also obviously having their defensive duties. That is something really exciting, which we have not really seen yet. Although we have had them for well, probably 2 or 3 years. These players in the squad. So yeah, we will see. Lisa Smith says, "Do you think there's a place for Maxi Gomez in the final for qualifiers?" Yeah, like I said, just I think it's hard, but I don't. You know what? There's still a chance, because and now you say answered. Yeah, I was going on. I did answer it a little bit before, but probably the question of you was later. But I still think there's a chance, because um, Maxi still has the time to turn the season around for him. He scored a goal against Celta 2 weeks ago, so it still can happen. And I like Maxi a lot. He's one of my favorite players, along with Coates, like I mentioned earlier. Coates, Suarez, obviously, Tasqueta, and Maxi Gomez. These are four of my favorite players. Sometimes maybe I'm too much of praise for them because they are my favorites, or not all my favorites, but some of them. But I still think he has talent and he has something about him which, I mean, he's 25, it's not like he's 32, there's still years left in his career to turn it around. And we've seen that he can be a really good striker, scoring close to 20 goals in La Liga for a relegation battling team like Celta. So yeah, I still have hope, we will see how it happens. But yeah. Okay. Burn Roddy says, as a Peñarol fan myself, don't think Alvarez Martinez is ahead of Fer Torres. I think you mean Facuna Torres. Positional players must be able to hold the ball, and it's Federico Vina's job because no one else has the build to resist it. You know what, Burn Roddy? Um, if you bring this point up 2 years ago, probably would have gone with you because Federico Vinas at this moment in time was breaking all kind of headlines in Mexico, doing so well, coming out of nowhere. But the truth of the matter is that the last year, for sure, he hasn't been in the plans of the manager, hasn't played a lot, but also when he's played, he's not been fantastic, has struggled with injury. So for me at this moment, although maybe one day it could be, Federico Vinos is not in consideration of the national team. But I believe that he has the profile to be a good striker, in Europe, and maybe one day be a striker for the national team. But yeah, that's the thing, 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago, there was momentum with him. He was playing really well. So there was an opportunity, but there was COVID, obviously. But now, 1 year later, the situation is completely different. And fortunately for him, at this moment in time, so 1 year ago, 1.5 year ago, he probably had some possibilities to go into Europe. Now it's probably gone out of the window. So he has to really turn it around again because I think there's a promising player in there, and I like him as well. For the way he's playing and the profile he has. But at this moment in time, it seems impossible, in my opinion. Marmo Tank says, personally, there is no perfect diamond. It always depends on form and opponent. Oh, yeah, that's true. I mean, a diamond, yeah, but that's with everything, Every formation can be countered with another formation or with the tactical side, with tactics of another manager. But it's up to a manager to react to this as well. That's probably the nice thing about management, or the difficult thing about management. But a diamond can obviously work really well because the thing with diamonds is we have some good, I would say it good. We have a lot of bodies in midfield. There are a lot of combination play could be going on because you have a lot of triangles in his midfield trying to associate with each other. And I like a lot when you have a deep lying midfielder who can dictate the play, but also is protection for the defense. And then you have two midfielders ahead of him who are more dynamic box to box. I like this dynamic of the midfield, and I think it's a good option. But will it happen? We don't know. Marmo Texas. More physical games like against Chile and Paraguay, Arambari should be ahead of Torreira for sure. I don't think physically there's much between Arambari and Torreira. Arambari, I think, is a little bit taller, but Torreira is a pit bull, so I would back him. But I get your idea of that. It possibly could be a better alternative. I think both are more than capable of doing a job in his position. My preference is for Torreira because I think he's just a better player, better all-round player, a better fit in this midfield role. So yeah. Marmotech says, let's see if Alonso can do what he can do what. Sorry, let's see if Alonso can do what he can with these crucial 360 minutes. Yeah, so in the upcoming 4 games, if he can do it, I mean that's the point. We can talk about it until the sun comes up again because over here it's already dark. Um, but we'll have to see, and I think it's less than 50 days. I think it is that the games or the game against Paraguay is there. Will be really interesting. I can't wait for it. I can't wait for it because um, it's something to look forward to again. Uh, the last few months, even years, there was moments that obviously when Uruguay play, you were excited, but at the back of your mind, you always thinking it's not really great. This you have seen this leaked lineup, the probable lineup, and you're already thinking, how the hell is he playing again? Why is he there? All these things, and maybe we still will have this, but it's a clean slate. It's a new beginning, and that's exciting. Um, Danny F says versus Portugal, Uruguay played a diamond midfield with Torreira as CDM, Namnes Vecino as the center mids, and Bentancur as the central attacking midfielder behind Suarez and Cavani. I would like to see that again, but with Valverde instead of Vecino. I think that's a good example of how we can play. For me, though, Bentancur is not the central attacking midfielder, and I don't think. I mean, I don't think he was. I mean, he gave the assist for the goal against Cavani. I remember, the winning goal, and he did some good things in his role. But for me, he was not. He's not the perfect fit for this role. I don't think he is. That's just my opinion. I think Darsketa or De La Cruz are better suited. If we play Bentancur, it's one of the two center midfielders with Torreira behind them. So, like I said, my ideal midfield is Torreira, Bentancur, Valverde. It has everything in my opinion. Manuel Tech says, God, I wish every game was like Portugal Uruguay. Yeah, I do as well, but probably you have to see the doctor every week because that game wasn't good for my heart. Although it was brilliant to see, it was so stressful. It was typical Uruguayan game, at least as we have been not so much in the last few weeks or the last few months. But when Uruguay's on top of the game, they can be great. I really like his fighting spirit, but it's never easy. And that's also something that is beautiful about Uruguay, but also something that can mess with your heart a little bit. Marotex, I personally think uh, Nandes is a hard time finding a spot in the starting 11. Yeah, you know what? I probably agree with you, and you are continuing the point because our midfield is packed and he doesn't perform well enough as a right back or a right winger. Yeah, and this is why I agree with you because right wing, he's not the right winger. Right back, he's not the right back. For both positions, he's a good enough player with so many dedication and a great mentality to do a good job. And also his physical attributes. He's quick, he's strong, he has stamina like you would not believe. He can sprint like a madman in the 98th minute. So this thing I'll play for him, but he's not fit for this. He's not suited for this position completely. So he can do a good job because he's a player that the manager loves because he's so versatile. But he's not the best or the most suited for this position because Damian Suarez is a better right back. Um, Brian Rodriguez, although maybe he's not been playing fantastically, is a better right winger. So you have to go back to his normal position because you have to remember his position is midfield, central midfield. Sometimes maybe right midfield, but central midfield. He broke through for Peñarol over there and Boca Juniors as well. But in midfield, like you say as well, Marmotank, in midfield, Uruguay have a lot of good players, big talents who are playing for the biggest teams in Europe, like Madrid or Juventus. Um, and these players are better midfielders in my opinion. So it will be a hard for him to find the spot he should, which is his own, which is a fixed position for him. So it will be interesting to see, and maybe hard for him. Bern Roddy says the best game I saw in years was against Peru in Copa America 2019. It was unfair how he lost. It was unfair, with the tight offsides. I don't want to go into this anymore, but we didn't deserve to lose. That's true, and it's a shame. But yeah, I mean, I remember this. I was flying like 2 days afterwards. I was going to Costa Rica with two of my friends, vacation. Um, I remember in this flight, like a lot of time in this flight, And obviously, you're watching films, listening to music, but just these flashbacks coming into your head from offside calls or missed chances, and thinking, "Oh my days, we should have been in the semifinals." And then we would have played. I think it was Chile, because Peru played against Chile, and Peru advanced to the final. And Chile, the way they were at this moment, I think Uruguay would have beaten Chile, not easily, but we would have beaten them. And then you got a final in the Maracana against Brazil. But yeah, it's ifs, but and maybes. We cannot go back into history, but it's a shame. Um, Danny F. I mean, this comment. Obviously I recognize your name, and you're a great guy to interact with on Twitter. I really love your support on the account, like all of you over here. By the way, I really love your support. But I know you are not the biggest fan of De La Schietta. So his comment right now is De La Schietta is the biggest fraud in the national team. He plays better for Flamengo than the last 7 years in Uruguay. So I agree with you that for Flamengo he's been better. He's played better. But I don't agree with you that he's the biggest fraud. You know, you have to look at the context of this. Okay, he could have done better. I'm not gonna say here that it's all down to Tabares. It's all down to the system. It's nothing, no fault of his own. No, that's not what I'm saying. Because he could have done better in some occasions, some games, some moments. But for example, this Copa America game, which we just talked about against Peru, Tarasquieta was fantastic. Created loads of chances. Was the main creator for us this game. And if the VAR was a bit more on our side, or maybe better working, or that maybe Cavani hold his run better, Arteta could have gone away with this the game with 2 or 3 assists. And he has had many games, not many, but he has certainly had some games like this. And has shown some good things. Should he have done more sometimes? Yeah. But also, has he been outplayed out of position a lot of times? For sure. Playing under Tavares in these last few years as a creative midfielder, who wants to create, wants to be attacking, looking for a killer ball. It's suffocating sometimes. There's no coincidence that almost any creative midfielder in Tavares' tenure has failed. Ramirez, Lodero, these players, they've played a lot against Uruguay, but would you say they have been great in the Uruguay career? No, they haven't. Let's be honest, they haven't. And De Rasqueta is another example of this. So I understand what you're saying, that he has not lived up to his expectations for Flamengo. But to say he's a fraud, I think it's going too far. Although I respect your opinion, obviously, but I don't believe this is true. Marmotank says, I wouldn't play Brian against anyone other than Venezuela because I think his dribbling can absolutely dominate the bad defense they have. I mean, when Brian is on his game, which admittedly has not been very frequent in the last year or year and a half, he can destroy defenders. He can. And hopefully something will click again for him. And he will have this confidence and he will grow and progress again. Because the first few games, and you all have this feeling, I'm absolutely sure of it, the first few games in his Uruguay career, he was like this breath of fresh air. Fantastic, direct, looking for the goal, looking for. And this is the Brian Rodriguez, which still is somewhere in this player. Like Maxi Gomez, he came to Celta, was this really big talent, really big talent in size as well sometimes because he liked to eat. But no, just joking. But he was this someone that we always thinking this can be the next Suarez. I mean, there will not be another Suarez anywhere, in my opinion. But you know what I'm saying? Someone with a big future who maybe could one day be the number 9 of Uruguay, playing for a big club of Europe. But this perspective for this hope has gone. And Brian, a little bit the same. This hope has gone a little bit, but these are players that still are at the right side of the 30. And certainly Brian Rodriguez, I think he's 21. So let's keep the hope a little bit. Maybe and hopefully something will click again, and they can click into gear again. Um, so yeah, okay. Let's have a look. I see Marmotek and Daniel are having a chat about Tarasqueta here. Yeah, it's a good chat. What I will do now is stop the chat because almost going for an hour. Really I mean, getting hungry a little bit. Trying to probably gonna eat something, and I will speak to you very soon because I think there will be some interesting updates in the coming weeks in regards to Alonso, his meetings with players because he is from today He lives in Europe, lives in Spain. He will meet with national team players. Um, to probably get his idea across, conversate, interact from how we are going to solve this, or how we are going to go to the World Cup, meet with the players. So probably things will come out, and when I feel the need to go live to talk with you about this, then I will do, and you will probably see it on the Twitter account. Yeah. So thanks for all of you being here, getting involved in the chat, or just listening to my nonsense, basically. But thanks a lot for doing that anyway. I enjoyed it and appreciate it as always that you are here. If you've not already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you soon, and I will see you probably in a few minutes again on Twitter. Okay. I hope you enjoy the rest of the day or night, whatever you live. So I'll see you soon. Bye bye.